Hello and welcome to Microsoft Presents the Economic Times Human Resource Summit 2022, powered by iMocha and co-powered by HirePro. The summit was designed to update, upskill and upgrade the HR community. The theme this year was Reinventing with HR towards flexible and equitable organization of the future. The HR Summit 2022 was inaugurated by stalwarts from the industry. The August gathering started with an opening address by Vedmani Tiwari, Chief Operating Officer, officiating CEO, National Skill Development Corporation. The subject he focused on was HR redefined, engagement, culture and purpose in a more hybrid work.
Whenever we think of HR, few terms come to our mind: workplace, work life, diversity, equity, inclusion and management. Somehow we all believe that the workplaces are at odds with individuals' life, and these need to be managed in a way that we can all contribute our individual self to do a productive work. The pandemic also brought some new dimensions to the workplace. The new age companies no longer believe in having any workspace at all. That means the world is impacting the workplace is impacting our private space is impacting work. That calls for a very different dialogue among the people in this room. Because the world is changing so fast in front of us, the stakeholders' expectations from us are changing very much. And our workplaces, our teams, our talent, they all have very different dimension. Thank you so much.
The summit was designed in such a way where HR experts came together and interacted on how the latest trends and new technology is helping industry to be more efficient. A fireside chat was arranged to understand how the hybrid work model is resetting work-life balance.
As we start this discussion, as I'll ask both of you, and maybe I'll start with you, Tanya, hybrid model to be a bit of a generational thing, in the sense that a more younger workforce prefers hybrid or work from home or whatever, virtual, whereas the older, more experienced workforce probably wants to get back to office.
I think even before we get to the generational demographics, I think the last 2.5 years has created such a dramatic shift in just the way people look at work. Is work even worth it, right? We have all been hit by a realization that we are all mere mortals, and whatever time we spend on earth, we need to get the best of everything. While you look at the worthiness of work, and people realizing that work is just one part of life, yes, there is a demographic shift between the Gen X and the millennials and the Gen Z, which is now coming, which has probably started work during the pandemic. They do not know what it meant to go to office, to interact with people, to learn from people, to have organizational conflicts to resolve, none of that, right? They are in their rooms, they are on Teams, most of the time without their videos on, and they're contributing. They're just swooping in or parachuting in, delivering their part of the work and coming out. And I think that's it. This is what work is. And whereas the Gen X and the millennials definitely feel that it is important to go to office, to meet with colleagues, because they know the beauty of social capital and what it can build for them to relate to the purpose of working for an organization. It's not just about going in and doing work, but the purpose and the mission that an organization that they're working for and what is their contribution to it. So I think that's what is evolving.
Richard, you have a massive workforce right here in this city itself. So what is that workforce saying? Are you seeing a similar trend there?
The point which I think all of us should understand is that we have to be flexible, because this can change. As things evolve, I think companies need to give space for people to adjust their schedules to what is needed, rather than us deciding for them. And I think one of our biggest learning is that you keep listening to employees, you take inputs from data and analytics which you have, as well as the other insights you get, and you build your work practice to accommodate the changing needs of the workforce, not forgetting the needs of your client, so you can't run it in isolation. But I think it's a balance, and I think all of us as company leaders will have to play with this balance for the next couple of years or so till we reach some kind of an evolved state on this model. I think it's still too early for us to call which way it is going to go.
Hybrid is here to stay, and this is a work model that is in a stage of shift. So there are different opinions emerging about it. There are opinions emerging that 70% of people want flexibility, and there is also an opinion emerging that 70% want to come into office. So that point where the two will emerge is where a hybrid model will possibly work.
At this August gathering, a report card to the Future Human Capital 2022 and beyond was launched by Chief Operating Officer, Officiating CEO, National Skill Development Corporation, and Anandaroop Ghosh, partner Deloitte India. Sujit Karpe of iMocha explained how technology is helping to get skilled intelligence.
65% of the skills are going to change by the year 2030, right? And to stay competitive in the market, you need to predict the skill fitness of your current employees. You need to know their skill goal of your organization. Where is your organization headed towards? So we reached out to all our customers and said, how is the skill data they are using to get a competitive advantage for them, right? Using talent acquisition or using talent development? And this is the answer we got. These are the different use cases where a skill data is used today, right? It starts from pre-joining program to a fresher training program to a client readiness program to upskilling, reskilling, performance appraisal, training effectiveness, and all these places, some intelligence of a skill is used. The outcome of a skill HR teams are trying to use. Companies' most important assets are people, and people's most important asset today is skills. So you need to have a skills data for an individual, at a business unit, at a country level, and maybe at a worldwide level. So every company has a vision for the future, how they are moving towards the future, right? And for moving towards the future, the way skill metrics is changing, company has an understanding what skills are required 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line. And if the company knows what is the skill data at an individual level today and what are the gaps, right? It starts all over there. They can really invest into the right training of the employees. They can really invest into the right culture to be built for learning. And if this data is tracked and measured at a particular interval, and if you see this data moving towards the skill goal of the company, right? A company will help achieve its goals, the vision on time or before time, and that will provide a competitive advantage to an organization.
On the other side of the break, we'll understand the latest trends and technologies which are available to make the HR process more efficient. Hello and welcome back. The learning and development process is becoming a priority for companies nowadays. Learning and development of the employee is helping companies to grow and achieve goals. To understand this more, let's see what experts are trying to explain through the Spotlight session, People Practice with Purpose, Reskilling Employees for Modern Businesses.
Over the last decade, we've seen that most of us as companies have started thinking about shaping experiences. A Gartner study itself says that whatever you acquire, if you don't apply it, if you don't have any way for using that skill, it's going to go away in days, in months. So as an organization, what do we need to provide for? If you want to start with creating that experience, if you want to look at scenario building, is to be able to have application of the skill happen dynamically.
I think important piece of talent work that as HR people we have to do now. It is different from, when many of us started our careers, where we could really bank on a lot of industry experts to sort of come and tell us, these are your future skills, take this. It's no longer enough because your organization, your ecosystem, your customers are very unique and they expect you to respond to their needs very uniquely. So I think there is value in setting that up. And then of course you build a governance around it and you keep renewing it. And as you do it, I think how do you energize people around it? It is not enough if you have this list of next generation skills or premium skills or whatever name you give it. in your own data bank and your employees don't know about it. To a very large extent, you have to democratize it, you have to be transparent and really build energy and aspiration around building those skills. Then you sort of, become a force.
On the other side, Mridul Kumar initiated his thoughts on how the future of hiring will be.
Hiring process has actually gone through a very big tectonic shift in the last 2 years. Some of the base denominators that actually have stuck around in the new world essentially is that all our customers are telling us that most of their hiring will continue to be remote. Some of it will be strategically hybrid in nature. Candidates, through the push of everybody getting all digitized, they have become truly tech savvy. They have more choices in terms of employers. And in all of this, they are expecting every employer to, to do more and offer more, to be able to, get attracted, right? And not just the candidates, the employers have gotten savvy as well. These are really the new baselines. And then that's where, we believe that, the future of hiring is touchless and delightful. More than a decade, in the last 2 years, we have seen that the hiring industry has gone through a tectonic shift. Everything has changed. Previously, recruitment used to be physical. People used to come to offices and participate in a job application process. Now the candidate, the recruiter, the interviewer, everybody sits in different locations. So it has brought about probably 3 major changes. One is how do you manage the process in a fraud-proof manner? So when everybody is sitting remotely, fraudulent hiring tends to be a problem. The other big point would be the candidate experience and the employer brand. In a physical world, there were better ways and easier ways to build connects with the candidates and candidate connect with the organization. Now with everything being remote, building the right employer brand and providing the right candidate experience, new digital ways, new creative ways have to be thought through.
The summit also tried to address the challenges faced by businesses during the pandemic and how companies are now taking care of employees.
Along with the business strategy, it's extremely important for all organizations to have like an employee well-being strategy in place, which takes care of all the facets. And I know that we're going to talk about different facets today and how your strategy has to speak to or from the organization values and how the leaders and senior managers have to really buy into it and deliver it along with the HR teams. So I think that was one big takeaway especially for me, that it has to be a very inclusive strategy with the business leaders.
I think this whole disruption, post-pandemic disruption, has fast-forwarded the future of work. It has accelerated the whole future of work and workspace and workforce. It has become a business imperative now for the board members, CXOs, business leaders, HR leaders, while it continues to be the priority of human capital. And I think the awareness has also increased about the linkage of employee well-being to the business performance. And if we really look at, the mindset change and the wake-up call that as business has seen is really coming from the disruption COVID caused. And apart from that, there has been economic business headwinds which have come through due to multiple reasons. Great reset because of the unprecedented resignations that we are seeing, talent shortage that we are seeing. It has been a complete wake-up call at the organization level.
There was a time when we said that we're only bothered about the employee and anything that happens outside of the workspace was not a concern, at least for the company. But today that's completely changed, right? Because we've invaded the homes. I would say a lot of gratitude to the families for welcoming work into the homes and giving us that space. What have we learned? The biggest one is that lives are important.
I think in my mind, managers need to demonstrate and model and also coach and also share the care show the care for the people. Because if they know that they can be vulnerable, they can talk about their issues with their manager, I think it just percolates in the whole organization, and we probably will end up creating an environment which is, I think somebody said in the morning, right, a more happy workplace is what I would say.
I come from a workplace which at the beginning of 2020 publicly announced that we will not let people go because we are not making money. So that was one less issue to tackle with, to say my job is secure, now I need to take care of my family and figure out internet connections, right? So what I've heard is the communication from leaders has to be very, very clear. If it is not clear, and it's HR's job to take care of wellness, it's not going to happen, right? So whatever leaders are saying has to come down to the last employee in the language they understand.
What is the kind of conversations we have? What are the words we speak, right? It is not only having a conversation, even for the employees, corporate employees, it's not the conversation that you have it in a closed room. So you have it with your extended family. So I need to, whenever I'm having a conversation, my meeting, I need to be cautious of my tone of language, tone and language. Everything matters, right? Because it's also impacting the family. So, and we sensitize people. There are a lot of initiatives we have taken to sensitize people. Of course, the managers played a major role because it's not HR can do everything, right? So it's all about the managers bring a change. And these are some of the initiatives which I've done.
Blueprint of the operating model would be different for different organization, but there are 3 pillars to this operating model, as we call, which is people, places and process, which means in the hybrid environment, which is future of the work, we will see a lot more tech investment happening in the area of employee experience, which caters to people. We'll see organization redesigning their workplaces because they need to make offices worth commuting and giving an experience to the employees. So lot more will happen from an operating model standpoint in the places. And third is about processes, which means more and more automation, which we can really bring to the workforce, right? So people, places, process, that's largely will be the operating model. Now, as I said, it will be different for different organizations, different for different industries, but it will cut across these 3 pillars.
Hello and welcome back. Raghuveer Malik of Policy Bazaar focused on how Insurtech is redefining the future of employee wellness.
75% of Indians' healthcare expenses are not in a hospital. They're at the lab, they're at the GP, they're at the medicine end. Why are we not helping our employees out here? Why are we not making it easy for them to access Medicare over here? Very, very quickly, online consultations in 15 minutes, the entire process managed digitally, mental wellness plans for your employees. So just adding one more layer to this, right? So one is, okay, I have all of this. There's an employee app. They have all of this. But hey, how do we really drive engagement with you? So what we did about 6 months back is that we digitized our wellness calendar. We have a certain number of credits. Those credits can buy you a certain number of workshops or on-site or off-site for your employees. And we drive it end to end, obviously basis everything goes through you. We use digitization from the extent of managing it, but obviously there are people involved in it as well. The pandemic caught us all off guard. And we were all left with workforces that were distributed across the country, working from home, yet requiring more support than ever before. Insurtech brings about a way to responsibly reach out to your employees in such a manner that you're able to offer them what you are paying for to an insurance company or a wellness provider. So it solves the fundamental problem of outreach, communication, and enablement of services to your employees, regardless of whether they are sitting in office or sitting in their home, regardless of whether they have access to their laptop or their mobile phone. Your employees will be able to access everything from claims, endorsements, enrollment drives, flexi benefits, and various benefits on the OPD side digitally provided by your company. That's how Insurtech plays a role in establishing a formidable defense to any future disruptions.
Technology has transformed the work style of HR. Innovation and technology is helping HR to analyze the performance of employees.
45% of the graduate engineers who are passing out are not employable. This adds up to the problem. It is not in line with the industry. So quickly, if you have to act fast, get the people, clearly identify what type of skill sets are required, put them through a structured training process, and make them employable at the earliest. So that is the challenge for each one of the HR people here.
I think with the pandemic came the need for certain skill sets, such as, if I were to, list them down, there will be a whole lot of them, but I think pretty much digital and cloud computing were very important skill sets, right, that came into fore. They were existent earlier, but they became as important as any other enterprise or core stack skills.
We focus on primary skills, functional skills, technical skills, and we do not focus as much on adjacent skills. For example, engineers and scientists, while PhDs and MTech, doctorate, etc. is required in R&D, but to have critical thinking, decision making, problem solving, these are also skills that are required by engineers and scientists, which are not given as much importance as our functional and technical skills are given, right? So that is one area where we have to kind of, not really push back, but we have to bring awareness to our businesses, to our function heads, and that's the transition, that he was talking about, from a role to a skill, right? So that's where the transition is.
See, when we look back 5-6 years ago, when we started off on the journey that we are presently in, we really sought out to first think, how do our customers really consume skills today? That was the origination. And one thing that we distinctly felt then was, it is no longer just one single skill, but really composite skills that customers and actually roles, therefore, really require today. That was the starting point. Now that automatically led us to start defining what those different roles are as we need in an organization. What are the skill combinations we need, a learning plan, a learning path, assessment. So the L&D cycle was sort of began there, the journey began.
For equitable, diverse and inclusive workforce, you need to eliminate bias. And how biases can be eliminated? Bias can be eliminated by bringing in the tools and technology and removing the human intervention. So be it masking it through the tool. So instead of judging a person by his race, gender, religion, location, you can judge a person by the skill he or she possesses. And technology can help you a lot in these things. So I certainly think that technology can help remove the bias and help in equitable, inclusive and diverse workforce.
Today, more and more job seekers are making it a priority to find employers who promote and value inclusion. A fireside discussion was held to understand how HR can promote an inclusive work environment.
No, there is a lot of activities that organizations have rolled out in terms of the D&I initiatives. What role do you think HR has? Is it really an HR-centric role? Is it more on what kind of support would you look for from the business?
Sure, so I'm going to answer that question with 3 words: all in commitment. It is not only HR's role to bring about diversity and inclusion. I think it's everybody's role in the organization to think about inclusion. Everybody plays a role that you're best positioned to play to be inclusive in your everyday work, right? Taking HR as a thought partner, being your connector, and taking that business leadership to co-create a solution is where inclusion can be truly effective.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion topics should be discussed in innovation summits, because diversity fuels innovation through collaboration. More diversity of thought, more collaboration leads to innovation. So I think together as HR fraternity, if we all come together as a voice, I think we will be there very soon.
It is about innovation. It is about everyone has a role to play, but it is also pure business sense. And I want to bring that in. I think one of the conversations I often have with our senior business leaders is, where is your buying power? And are you clear where that buying power is going to shift in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years? How are you franchising or defranchising different customer cohorts?
The first edition of the Economic Times HR Summit 2022 in Bengaluru was a grand success. Let's hear from our esteemed panelists on what they thought about the event.
Brilliant, holistically,
innovative,
interesting,
formidable. I am so happy to be here in this ETH conference, which is an HR summit on reimagining HR.
I think it brings ideas and perspectives which otherwise we would lose out.
It's a pleasure here to be here and to meet at the ETHR Summit.
With this, we thank you, our viewers, and promise to return with the next HR Summit in Mumbai with more interactive sessions and lots more.